Welcome. In our channel, drop a comment and let me know if you could read minds. Would you walk away from your own wedding when you heard the truth? I have a special mind-reading ability. I can hear the inner voices of people who don't truly love me. It's been that way for as long as I can remember. But the night before my wedding, something changed. I suddenly heard my fiancé's voice in my head, and what I heard shook me to my core. If she tries to steal my wedding tomorrow, it will be hard for me to escape, wearing leather shoes. I didn't say a word. I just kept quiet and boarded a flight out of the country. The next day, that wedding became the laughingstock of the entire city, because both the bride and groom had vanished. Me explain. I've always had this unique gift. I can hear the unspoken thoughts of people who don't love me, and because of that, I've learned to spot fake affection from a mile away. I can easily walk away from so-called friends who don't have my best interests at heart. Even when it comes to the guy I secretly had a crush on for years, I could stay indifferent, because I knew his feelings weren't real. And it's not just relationships. Even when buying durian, I could hear the vendor's thoughts and pick the one with the most flesh and the sweetest taste. I could hear everything they were thinking crystal clear. Because of that, I've learned to avoid eye contact with strangers in daily life. Too many thoughts, too much noise. But then I met Alan. And for the first time the world was quiet. There was no inner voice. Just the sound of his calm, clear voice saying "Hello, is it convenient for us to get to know each other?" When we met, there was no background noise in my mind. Just the two of us. When he was pursuing me, I could hear his thoughts, but they were simple and pure. Believed he loved me. So we fell in love, dated for 2 years, and eventually got engaged. I never once read his mind during our relationship. But just before the wedding, everything changed. I suddenly started hearing his inner voice, and what I heard made my blood run cold. Alan came from a good family. He'd taken over his father's company and was busy managing the family business. With the wedding coming up, we had a lot to prepare, especially in the past 2 months. I'm an independent woman, and I respected his work, so we hadn't seen each other much lately. But that day, when we went to finalize our wedding outfits, I was actually looking forward to spending time together. I arrived on time and he was already there, trying on shoes. He turned to the staff, said something, then walked out while talking on the phone. I understood. Running a company isn't easy, especially with multiple heirs in the Du family. We exchanged a quiet glance, and then I heard it. His inner voice, clear as day. Rena said that we're going to grab the wedding tomorrow. So it's more convenient to wear sneakers. Froze. I stared at his mouth, trying to confirm if I had really heard that, if this was actually his thought. And I knew, without a doubt, that I wasn't imagining it. My heart dropped. It was summer, but I suddenly felt ice cold from head to toe. I watched as the staff handed him a pair of light sneakers. He nodded at me and prepared to leave. Our usual silent understanding. He must have something important to handle. But the words I had just heard weren't fake. And I never mishear thoughts. Without thinking, I followed him. Had to know more. I called out to him, "Alan." He paused for just a second before getting into the car. Then he turned around, gave a quick explanation, and told the driver to go. "Sorry, there's an emergency with a client. I have to rush over." He lied. But in his mind he was thinking, I know Rena is angry from the voice on the phone. If I don't coax her, she won't let me go home tonight. I've never been the kind of woman who complains or wallows. Instead of breaking down, I decided to find out more. I used my ability again, this time on Alan's secretary. That's how I found out about Rena. Rena was Alan's first love, the illegitimate daughter of the Yu family. Mrs. Yu never acknowledged her, and Rena had always lived in the shadows. Unfortunately, the elders in the Du family broke them apart. Rena, with her pride wounded, left Alan without a word and disappeared. And Alan fell for me not because of who I was but because I looked a little like Rena, especially around the eyebrows. Now that she was back, I was just a substitute he no longer needed. It all made sense. Rena had returned just as Alan was buried in wedding preparations. It was the perfect timing. She wanted to snatch the wedding, declare her ownership over Alan, and retaliate against me, the woman who had taken the title of Alan's wife for so long. Alan, on the other hand, needed this moment to prove his loyalty to Rena, win her back, and force the Du family to finally accept her. And I was just a pawn in their plan. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. I had become the lead character in a cliché substitute romance novel. I cursed, packed my things, and booked a first-class flight out of the country. If they wanted to steal the wedding, I'd show them how to disappear from the world. Luckily, my family had already moved abroad, and I hadn't invited many people to the wedding. I had only invited a few close friends from China. Originally, we planned to have another wedding overseas after the families met during the engagement. That way, no one would have to deal with the language barrier. It was the perfect escape plan. I told my best friend Cassie what I was doing. She took the box from my hands without a word, her face serious. I couldn't read her mind, and I could tell she wasn't happy. "Cassie, are you going to stop me?" "Yes." She rolled her eyes and handed me a bag. "I brought you a sack of urea. It's durable for storing things." I almost laughed. I had forgotten that her family worked in pesticides. On the day of the wedding, Alan and I were dressed in our wedding clothes, greeting guests. His inner voice was louder than ever, and it made my head hurt. "Is Rena here? I can finally be with Rena. I've been waiting for her for 3 years. She's finally going to be my wife. This time, Rena will believe that my heart is unswerving." I looked at him several times, a cold chill running through me. But he kept his calm, gentle expression, the same one he always wore. He even asked me if I was okay. "You don't look very well. Why don't you go to the lounge and rest first? I'll handle the guests outside. You can come out when it's time." I agreed. It was almost time for me to make my escape. As I was about to change into casual clothes, I ran into someone at the door. Thanks to my mind-reading ability and our similar appearances, I recognized her instantly. Rena. I grabbed Cassie's arm before she could do anything rash. She was already in her bridesmaid dress, ready to fight. I pretended not to know who Rena was. "Are you Ellen's friend? Come on in, the wedding's about to start." Rena's smile faltered. She clearly didn't like me calling Alan by his name so casually. Her voice was sharp. "Miss Zoe, I'm sorry. We're wearing the same clothes today. If someone doesn't know better, they might think I'm the bride." Her inner voice echoed in my head at the same time. Laugh now. "In 3 hours, your groom will run away from me. Will you still be laughing then?" I smiled and shook my head. "I don't mind. Just have a seat." As we passed, Cassie muttered, "Stupid. I've said so much. Can't you see she's here to cause trouble?" I couldn't deny it. Rena was treating me like a joke. And Alan was ready to let her steal his wedding. Also, she could finally get the title of wife and force the Du family to recognize her. The wedding venue wasn't far from the airport. I sat in the waiting room, staring at the time on my phone, waiting for the show to begin. Cassie sent me a message. Excited, almost laughing. "Zoe, the wedding was really stolen. Damn, they're cheating and making it look like the cowherd and the weaver girl. How shameless." The ceremony had only started 5 minutes ago when she sent me a video. According to the schedule, Alan had gone on stage first, and the MC was telling a cheesy love story. Then the bride was supposed to walk in. But that's when Rena made her move. She wore the same reception dress as me, stepped forward, and grabbed the microphone. Despite the murmurs in the crowd, she began declaring her love for Alan, bold and shameless. Alan's face turned red. And then, in front of everyone, he nodded. He walked over to her, took her hand, and said, "I do." Rena's face lit up with satisfaction. She even wanted to give a speech, directed at me. "I know you like Alan very much, but Alan loves me the most. I hope you can make it happen." And there he was, Alan in sneakers that didn't match his suit, holding hands with Rena, who was holding the microphone like she had just won the lottery. She probably couldn't wait to see me break down. She had even planned how to comfort me. But when she shouted my name, "Miss Zoe! Miss Zoe!" no one answered. The door opened. No one was behind it. Just a discarded veil on the floor. The crowd exploded. Someone shouted, "Is the bride running away from her own wedding?" And in my quiet waiting room, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Of course I had to help them. After all, if I wasn't there to ruin their perfect little show, it would just be a clown show. I shook my head, still laughing, when suddenly a message appeared on the big screen at the venue. In bright red text. Escape statement. Because Alan cheated on his mistress, Rena, I've decided to escape the wedding. I'll make this joke for you. I hope you two won't separate in the future. And don't run out to hurt others. Attached was a recent photo of Alan and Rena, clearly together. Cassie sent me a message. Mission completed successfully. I smiled, sent a copy of the statement to my WeChat, and made it my final post. The people at the wedding were furious. But I was already on a plane, flying far away, leaving behind the mess they created. And I wasn't looking back. The moment I disappeared, the chaos truly began. Alan and Rena were still standing on stage, hand in hand, completely unaware that I had already left the building, and that their grand romantic gesture was about to become the biggest joke of the day. First, no one really noticed I was gone. The crowd was too stunned by what they thought was a dramatic elopement. Only it wasn't Alan running away from the wedding, it was me. And not in shame or heartbreak, but in complete control. Then someone shouted, "Is the bride actually running away from her own wedding?" From my quiet corner in the airport lounge, I could almost picture the confusion spreading through the venue like wildfire. People started searching for me, calling my name, checking the lounge, the dressing room, even the rooftop. Phones rang off the hook. No one could get through. Of course they couldn't. I was already boarding my flight. Even Alan's parents, who had been quietly watching the events unfold with growing unease, suddenly stood up and ordered staff to find me. But the truth was, there was nothing anyone could do. No one cared about the two people still awkwardly standing on stage anymore. Even the MC was told to step aside. Alan and Rena, once the center of attention, now looked like two performers forgotten on set, confused, exposed, and utterly ridiculous. Rena had imagined a dramatic escape scene, where she would sweep Alan off his feet and finally claim the title of wife. But without me as the audience, the whole thing collapsed into farce. And then came the message from Cassie. Mission completed successfully. I smiled, sent a copy of my escape statement to WeChat, my final post under that number, and switched my phone to flight mode. On the big screen at the venue, the words were already flashing in bold red. Escape statement. Because Alan cheated on his mistress, Rena, I've decided to escape the wedding. I'll make this joke for you. I hope you two won't separate in the future. And don't run out to hurt others. Attached was a recent photo of Alan and Rena together. Undeniable proof. It didn't take long before the internet exploded. The video of the failed wedding went viral, and Rena's dream of being the center of attention became her worst nightmare. Cassie called me later, barely able to contain her laughter. She described how Rena kept trying to give a speech, how Alan looked around desperately for support, and how the guests eventually gave up searching for me and just left. Even the Du family staff stopped looking. Rena was reduced to crying beside Alan while guests whispered behind their backs. My disappearance had turned their perfect wedding into a full-blown scandal. Alan probably thought I'd stay silent out of respect for both families, especially since most of my assets are abroad and the Du family wouldn't be affected too much. He must have believed I'd let them continue with their plan, quietly accepting defeat. But he underestimated me. Instead of playing the wronged bride, I took off, exposing everything and leaving them with no cover, no dignity, and no way to spin the story in their favor. Let them enjoy their love, if that's what you can call it. When it comes to marriage, love alone isn't enough. takes effort, compromise, and real commitment. And clearly, Alan and Rena had none of that. Besides, the days of fairy tale weddings and happily ever afters ended long before I walked out of mine. Legally speaking, we weren't even married. Alan and I never signed the paperwork. So when I asked my parents to help me leave the country, they didn't hesitate, especially since they understood better than anyone how fragile some relationships can be. As soon as I landed, Cassie messaged me again. The fallout was bigger than anyone expected. Alan's mother had slapped him in front of everyone. His father didn't even look at him before walking out. Rena cried and begged him to fix things, but no one wanted to listen anymore. And honestly, he deserved it. Everyone knew how much I had helped him over the years. Financially, socially, professionally. And yet, when Rena came back, he threw it all away just to win back an old flame. People who betray others will always face betrayal in return. I'm not bitter, I'm free. Free from a relationship built on lies. Free from a man who saw me as a substitute. And free from a family that valued status more than integrity. If Alan and Rena want to get married someday, I'll even send them a gift. Mean it. I genuinely hope they learn what real love is. Not the kind that fades when tested, but the kind that stands strong when life gets messy. 'Cause trust me, it will get messy. Looking back, our meeting felt like fate. We met at a charity dinner in Hong Kong, where my family had roots before moving abroad. My parents had settled overseas early on, chasing business opportunities and a more open lifestyle. They were older now, and international flights were tough on them. That's why I had come back, for a short visit and to reconnect with my heritage. That night, Alan approached me with a glass of wine, charming and composed. I rarely initiate conversations at public events, especially not with strangers. My ability makes it hard to tolerate insincerity, and I usually avoid unnecessary interactions. But with Alan it was different. For the first time in a long time, I couldn't hear anything from him. Just silence. That made me curious and patient. When he confessed to me weeks later, he was nervous, shaking slightly as he held out a rose. "Zoe, I'll treat you well for the rest of my life," he said, eyes filled with sincerity. I believed him, because I couldn't hear any doubt in his mind. And that's why I agreed to stay, to build a life with him. But promises only matter when there's true love behind them. Alan and Rena's story, it turns out, was never about love. It was about unrequited longing and youthful obsession. Rena may not have been as perfect as Alan remembered, and Alan may not have loved her as deeply as he claimed. Sometimes, love feels stronger precisely because it was never fully realized. A few weeks after my escape, Cassie called me again, this time with news about Alan and Rena's second attempt at a wedding. It was a small affair, held in a secondary hall. Alan's father didn't attend. Neither did many guests. Rena's bouquet hit the floor mid-ceremony after Alan's mother scolded her publicly, refusing to acknowledge her as a proper daughter-in-law. Alan tried to keep the peace, but he was clearly overwhelmed, caught between a mother who refused to accept Rena and a wife who wanted everything handed to her. Cassie laughed as she described the scene. "It's like watching a tragicomedy unfold," she said. Honestly, I couldn't help but laugh too. In the end, I lost nothing except a bad relationship. But Alan, he lost face, reputation, and whatever loyalty he once had from his family. Rena, meanwhile, seems happy for now, enjoying the benefits of being Mrs. Do, but power plays and family politics aren't easy to navigate, and I doubt she'll find lasting happiness in a world that never truly accepted her. As for me, I'm exactly where I should be. Thousands of miles away, free from drama, and surrounded by people who love me for who I am, not as a substitute for someone else. I escaped a marriage that was never meant to last. And if you ask me, I think I deserve a round of applause for turning disaster into liberation. And maybe, just maybe, fireworks too. I used to think that silence was the sign of true love, that if I couldn't hear someone's thoughts, it meant they were different, meant for me. And maybe for a while Alan was. But silence can be deceptive. Sometimes it's not peace. It's the calm before the storm. Looking back, I wonder if I was ever really part of the life Alan imagined for himself. Or if I was just a placeholder, a warm body with the right eyebrows in the wrong place at the right time. But you know what? I don't regret any of it. Because even the detours in life lead us somewhere. Mine led me away from a marriage built on nostalgia and insecurity, and into a life where I finally get to choose what I want, without compromise, without betrayal, and without apology. Alan and Rena got their dramatic escape, their twisted fairy tale. Too bad it didn't come with a happily ever after. From what Cassie tells me, their life together is more like a tragicomedy, one where Rena tries to play queen while Alan dances around his family's expectations, and no one is really winning. But I'm not rooting for their downfall. I'm rooting for my own rise. I've started over, not just in a new country but in a new version of myself. One that doesn't need a ring to feel complete, or a title to feel powerful. I've invested in my own dreams, built my own world. One where I'm not just someone's wife or someone's replacement. I'm just me. And the best part, I don't hear anyone else's thoughts anymore. Not Alan's, not Rena's, not even the occasional nosy strangers. It's like my mind-reading ability finally understood. I don't need to hear what people are thinking because I already know who I am. Maybe that's the real magic all along. So no, I'm not bitter. I'm not even angry. I'm just free. And if you ask me, that's the kind of ending no wedding crasher could ever steal.